Good morning and welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel.
You are a vital part of our game.
Thank you for having me on.
All the way to the green. Woo! Boy, was that fun.
I've always wanted to be on 5 Clubs. Thanks, Gary.
Good morning. Welcome into 5 Clubs. Great to have you with us this Wednesday morning. Little Friday getaway day. We don't know how to brand this day for us around here. With you for the next hour, the start of a huge programming day here on Wednesdays. The Smiley Show follows us. Vanity Index follows Smiley. I know the guys from Golf Today, Eamon and Damon, are out there in Scottsdale. Of course, Golf Central will be there as well. Huge day today, leading right into a ton of golf. Of course, I'm Gary Williams. And of course, this program is always brought to you by Century Insurance. They want to be right by you because business insurance is what they do. To insure your business best, evaluate all of yours with them. And we appreciate their investment in golf at every single level. Century Insurance, I mentioned the golf in Scottsdale. Pardon me, there is a ton of golf everywhere. LIV begins their season this week in Riyadh. You've got the DP World Tour in Qatar. Gosh, I remember in 2020, they had a 5-hole marathon playoff and morning drive went away. If that show was aired, it would have been our best show simultaneous to the live golf. It would have been our last show. Collapsed the whole show because Jorge Campillo won a marathon playoff against David Drysdale. You know if you were there, Kevin Ryan. What a day that was. Well, look, it's a busy week in golf. I mentioned LIV. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Keith Stewart's going to be with me because you know on Wednesdays we make picks. Poorly. Not him. He's a bona fide expert from Read the Line. He's going to be with me in studio. So we're going to talk at length about this field at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Obviously stacked, starting with Scottie. We'll get our picks. We got dogs on a Wednesday. Keith in studio. And who doesn't need a little Chamblee to start your day? I didn't say Chablis or Chablais. I said Chamblee, as in Brandel. He's going to be with me in less than 15 minutes. I do want to get his thoughts because I know he expounded a little bit on social media yesterday with respect to the decision made by the official World Golf Ranking System and their board with respect to LIV, but also talk a little bit about Scheffler as well. Kind of state of game. It's always great to get the thoughts of someone who makes you think, and that is Brandel. So he's going to be with me here in just a few minutes. But let me start with the decision. I know if you reside here, if Golf Channel's in your rotation or on PGA Tour Radio Channel 92 on SiriusXM, you're probably informed as to what the decision was yesterday made to give LIV world ranking points. And it was going to cause conversation, whatever. What I wasn't expecting is that LIV was going to be critical of getting points because they don't think they got enough. We'll get to that in a moment. But here is the statement from the official World Golf Ranking Board. The governing board of the official World Golf Ranking today announced its decision on the application from LIV Golf after conducting an exhaustive and collaborative process and in all the effort to reflect the changing landscape of the men's professional game. The OWGR board has made the decision to award world ranking points to LIV Golf events for the 2026 season. Ranking points will be allocated to the top 10 finishers in LIV's individual stroke play events, which recognizes there are a number of areas where LIV does not meet the eligibility standards set out by the OWGR. LIV events will be ranked based on OWGR's standard classification of small field tournaments, with a further virtual cut applied to award points to players who finish in the top 10. Players who finish lower than 10th will not receive world ranking points, and those points will not be redistributed to players finishing 10th or higher. So basically, in the end, so top 10, that's top 10. So if you do not, just one point, and I do not want to get bogged down by going full, nerd on you with respect to all this data. If there are players who don't finish in a tie for 10th, so if it's 10th alone, they're actually, that number, the total points in the field will actually be reduced. So the total percentage of the points that they're in position to receive would actually be reduced. Now look, as you know around here, I know what I know and I know what I don't. But what I know is to find out who knows things that I don't. And the people who are experts in the field of this area, which is data in the world ranking system, every one of them, in looking at their reaction to this, feels like this was fair. And I'm going to quote one in particular, and that is Data Golf. Data Golf, they said, you know what, LIV, based on everything that we have read, they had a pretty good day. That's Data Golf. And there are a lot of people who now rely on Data Golf because Data Golf is different from the official World Golf Ranking System. The way that I look at it, look, Data Golf evaluates performance based on the difficulty to achieve whatever your result is. Whereas the official World Golf Ranking System is rewarding finishes. And there is a clear distinction between that. And that is, I think, and most everybody else thinks that Data Golf is a much more granular examination of performance itself. From the beginning, from the opening gun to the finish line, not just what the finish is. Now, here's the thing about LIV saying, you know what, we're disappointed. You know, there are several things that I think they're either failing to understand or they're being stubborn about. And one of them is the arteries and the process of becoming eligible to play in LIV events. There are very few pathways. And in talking to members of the World Ranking System Board that issued that statement, of which I've had several conversations, the idea of going to 72 holes, and by the way, as they were announcing they were going to 72 holes and they were on the eve of having their first event in Riyadh, you had players, including the face of the league, with all due respect to Jon Rahm, you could argue is a better player than Bryson. He's won the same number of majors, different majors. That's beside the point. That's semantics. They're both great players. But I think Bryson's the face. He's got more leverage. He's in a contract year. And he was like, yeah, you know, I've got a contract for this year. And he is posturing. And he even said yesterday that we're working and negotiating an extension. But he even said himself, like the whole 72-hole thing, and he wasn't the only one. At the same time, they're getting world ranking points. Some of them are still complaining about the idea of playing 72 holes. Now, that was not a huge either hang up or it either was not a huge achievement, according to the people I've talked to who are part of the process of allocating world ranking points. It's pathways. And at the same time, they're on the doorstep of getting them. They are removing players. And this was part of the statement from LIV that we didn't even include about the idea of pathways that are based more on not merit or the meritocratic ways of getting in and out, whether it's elevation or relegation, that it was more based on the nationality of a player. That's bad timing, whether it's yesterday or 3 months ago, because there are 27 arteries that feed their way through the official World Golf Ranking System to the one that creates the widest gulf, the PGA Tour. And so if you just look at the PGA Tour compared to LIV, look, it's like comparing apples to kumquats. It's not just the size of the field, it's the density of performance of the players in those fields. And I go back to Data Golf ranking performance. And they are not looking with some jaundiced eye at LIV. They're not. They're just simply evaluating performance. And if you look at the Data Golf Top 100, 14 players who play on LIV are in their top 100. The lion's share of the bulk of the rest of that top 100 reside almost exclusively on the PGA Tour. And for example, just this week alone, you have 37% of the players who are in that top 100 who are making up the field this week. We have less than 10% in a small field of 57 players. So again, leaning on people who are experts on this stuff, they feel like LIV had a good day. And there are several who I follow who think that, you know what, they maybe got more than they deserved. And again, they are data-driven experts. They are not looking at this with, I've got some subjectivity that kind of weaves in here for one reason or another. Not at all. Not at all. One last thing about LIV as they begin their season. It's interesting to note that a lot of people think, me included, that I look at this endeavor, LIV Golf, for the Public Investments Fund of Saudi Arabia as a lost leader, because I do believe that, it's a happy accident to some degree. Doesn't mean that I will not objectively look at somebody playing well on LIV and then subsequently playing well in events, whether it be the DP World Tour or in major championships, particularly younger players who are not yet established. David Puig, Tom McKibben being a couple of them, Caleb Surratt being another. That those to me are almost like happy accidents, because I do not think the objective of this was to grow golf globally. I think it had other means. It had other means for a country that is trying to become not only less dependent, but more dependent on things other than petroleum by 2030. And oh, by the way, that leading project, which I think LIV was part of, trying to normalize and cleanse the overall image of Saudi Arabia, that futuristic city, Nome. There is a November article from the Financial Times talking about how that has almost ground to a halt. $50 billion in, projected to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of north of $4 trillion when it's done. And you're going, what are they building? They're building something unimaginable, the greatest, most ambitious urban project in the history of Earth, truly. A city going from the Gulf to the mountains, 170 kilometers long, and you're going, that's unimaginable. It does seem that way. The reason I bring that up is that I used to think that this thing could go on for quite some time, because as a lost leader, you swallow hard and you go, in the grand scheme, this makes sense. At what point doesn't it? Somebody who has been steadfast in his position, not only about LIV, but also about many other things as it relates to it. He shared some thoughts about this decision by the official World Golf Ranking System yesterday. Nobody better to get his thoughts on than Brandel Chamblee. He's obviously out in Scottsdale, awfully kind to join us early. We break now. He joins me next on a Wednesday. It is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio Channel 92 SiriusXM. Brandel Chamblee next. Back in on this Wednesday here on 5 Clubs Golf Channel. Also, you can listen, PGA Tour Radio Channel 92 on SiriusXM. This segment is brought to you by Century Insurance. Their investment in golf is deep and at every level, from the first tee to the USGA to the PGA Tour to right here, our presenting sponsor, Century Insurance. All right, joining me now, the junior senator. Hell no, I've been saying this for so long. He's probably the senior senator now from the state of Arizona. He's not the favorite Chamblee, but he is part of that podcast as well. You'll see him later today on Golf Central. He, of course, Brandel Chamblee. My friend, good morning.
Good morning. That was a hell of an intro, and I'm for sure not the favorite Chamblee.
Who came
My wife's
up with
asleep
that
right
title?
now. She'll be sorry she missed that one.
I know Bailey came up with the title because nobody can turn a phrase like Bailey Chamblee.
Bailey loves a great turn of phrase, but the title, I think, John Patrick, who does a great radio show in Augusta, I ran into him at Augusta National last year, and he goes, "Where is the favorite Chamblee?" And I came back and shared that with Bailey. She was like, "That's the title of the podcast." And I was like, "Yes." I was like, she's like, "It's ambiguous." I go, "No, I really don't think it is."
No, it's not at all. It couldn't be more succinct.
I was like, "You don't ever piss anybody off, ever. Everybody loves you."
All right, let's try to go 15 minutes and see if you can achieve that. The LIV decision by the OWGR, I saw your thoughts on it. Before we get to the details on what LIV is getting, I want you to share with people your thoughts just in general about some things about the current system that you have some misgivings about. Just share your feelings about what maybe could change or what you don't like about it.
You mean about the official World Golf rankings?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So, I mean, we could go in great detail there, but
Yes.
just real quickly, I think them not giving world ranking points to LIV, and look, early on, I would have probably fell on the side of them not giving them world ranking points. But the more you think about it, the more you dive into it, the more you try to understand what the official world golf rankings are meant to be, and it became more and more clear to me that they were confusing governments with measurements. And that's a category error. By not giving LIV points, they were, in effect, they were policing format differences. They were incentivizing participation. They were protecting legacy tours. And they were doing that using a tool that was meant to perform or meant to measure performance. And that's like using a thermometer to enforce a dress code. And the more that they did that, they got away from their core principle, which is to just tell us next week who's most likely to play the best golf, who the best golfers are. So I think it was necessary for them to recognize LIV from a world ranking standpoint. Now, having said that, I think personally the world rankings, the official world golf rankings, are flawed. They oversize, they give perceived prestige by elevated points to major championships and to the Players' Championship, and they give bonus win points. Like just to put that into perspective, right now Scottie Scheffler has 17.1 points, 17.1, 17 and change. Okay, so they give a 4-point multiple win bonus for every one of his wins, and you think, okay, well, what does that mean? You dive into it, and going back to the Phoenix Open in 2024 to now, that means he's gotten 20 extra points in there. So subtract those 20 points away from his total points, still use the divisor of 40, because that's what his divisor is. And he goes from 17 to 15. So I realize Rory's also got multiple win bonuses, not as many as Scottie, obviously, but it's distorted the value. So it's not accurate. And because it just arbitrarily assigns value to major championships and to the players, it distorts the value. It shouldn't do that. It should literally just judge who is most likely to play the best golf next week. It should just tell us that based upon math, not preferred prestige that it just automatically or arbitrarily assigns to events. Another thing that that official world golf rankings, in my opinion, gets wrong. It uses strokes gained data to measure the strength of a field, but it doesn't use strokes gained data to measure the performance within a week. So you can win a golf tournament by 15 shots, and then you can win it in a 5-way playoff. Win the same golf tournament, 1 by 15, 1 in a 5-way playoff. You get the same number of points.
Yep.
That's bizarre to me. One is decidedly a matter of skill. The other is manifestly a matter of luck. One tells you who's likely to play much better the next week. You look at it and you think, well, these guys are equally going to have the same chance of playing well next week. Not the case. So in my view, there's all kinds of flaws in the official world golf rankings. And Data Golf just does a much better job of telling you who's more likely to play the best golf next week or right now. Official world golf rankings will tell you who has the best resume, if that's important to you. But Data Golf is more accurate way to tell you who's more likely to play the best golf within a given week. And there's all kinds of discrepancies that I think underscore that. For example, you think Patrick Reed in the official world golf rankings right now is 25th. In Data Golf, he's 50th. And you're like, how can that disparity be? Because Data Golf values skills that stick. They don't value skills that are volatile. So they value ball striking about 2-3 times as much as short game. Short game is far more volatile skill and not as sticky as ball striking, week in and week out. So if a player has a couple of hot weeks, they can get a spike in the official golf rankings if it is because of a great putting spike. Mm-hmm. Well, Data Golf digs in and bears that out. And it's like, that does not mean he's likely to play well next week. He had a hot week with a putter. He didn't strike the ball particularly well. So Patrick Reed is notoriously a volatile player who doesn't always hit the ball that great, but can sort of get his way through a tournament with great putting or great chipping. So there's a sliding scale of what is sticky, and Data Golf recognizes that, with ball striking first, short game next, and putting last. And because official World Golf Rankings has this sliding scale that ends precipitously after 104 weeks, it's, you know, your points don't decay for 13 weeks, but then they begin to decay linearly. If you win a major championship, after a year, you have 57% of those points. That's 100 points. After a year in Data Golf, you have only 25% of those points, roughly speaking. Well, what you did 18 months ago is to the player you are right now. Data Golf is about more recent, more accurately predict who's going to play the best golf week in and week out. So they answer two different questions, and maybe both of them working together is a great thing. But with the ecosystem of golf fractured, it exposes, in my view, weaknesses of the official World Golf Rankings.
With that being said, do you think LIV, based on the allocation they're getting, which is top 10, and again, if you don't have ties, it's just those 10, so the percentage of total points that you could get would be diminished. Did they get enough? Too much? Too little?
Well, the official World Golf Rankings is in the business, or should be in the business, not of governance. It should be agnostic. It should be ecumenical. Yes. It should be blind. Pick your phrase. It should be in the business of just saying, you know, look, if you've got a problem with LIV's format, and a lot of us do, that's a governance issue. That's not a measurement issue. Every player in LIV should be ranked. If you really want to have an accurate measurement of who's playing the best golf in professional golf right now. And of course, a lot of people in the world of golf don't like that. We can talk all day about whether or not we like or dislike LIV Golf. Clearly, I don't.
Right.
But I've come full circle on whether or not they should receive world ranking points, because I sit down and I think, what is the core job of a ranking system? It is to accurately rank who the best golfers are in the world playing professionally. And it should be agnostic about the format or participation. Let's just say, again, going back to the official World Golf Rankings, let's just say you only play 30 events in 2 years. Well, your points get hugely diluted because they use a minimum divisor of 40. So you're penalized for only playing a schedule of 15. Why does it do that? Data Golf does not do that.
But Data Golf, Brandel, currently their top 100, there are 14 LIV players in the Data Golf 100. Then the other point that I was making before, having spoken to people, and I know you've talked about, you know, the merits and the meritocracy of what is one of the fundamental tenets of what you did for a long time, trying to play your butt off to get into events, and that choosing players based on nationality, whether it's bad timing, clumsy, or ill-advised, that was actually pointed out. Do pathways matter? And is 14 of the top 100 in Data Golf, does that seem like an equitable number of points to start with, starting with this first event in Riyadh?
Look, as I said, all these players on LIV should be getting world ranking points.
Right.
And, you know, you started to see, well, players were losing points not based upon performance. So again, as much as I dislike LIV Golf, and I dislike the format and the fact that it is a selection process, not an earned process for the most part. They do have some relegation, some promotion, and now a qualifying school. So they're solving these format problems slowly as they go along. I don't like the small field. I don't like the no cut. I know there are tour events like that. I think they're hard to defend. The fact that the hero gets world ranking points, that's not a good look for the PGA Tour. That's not easy ground to stand on when you're arguing against the merit of LIV. I look, it's Tiger Woods, and the players there are amazing players. They've been invited by Tiger Woods. It's a great event. I love watching it. I love covering it. But should it be receiving world ranking points when there's 18 players in it and no cut? If you make that argument, it's hard to make the argument that LIV shouldn't be getting world ranking points. And again, my position on LIV is unchanged.
Yeah, no,
we're talking about a ranking system. Yep. Tell us who's most likely to play the best golf next week. Do your job. Stay away from the governance. The governing bodies can mitigate whatever differences, whatever problems there are with LIV on their own. But also, this would put the major championships in a little better position in providing cover for them, so to speak, because they were having to go look at all of these players that should be in there and invite them to their majors. And it looked like they were playing sort of favorites. Now they could just say, look, we didn't choose them, the world rankings did. And that's the way it should be. We're all in the business of trying to judge the best players in the world and look every single week, like who's likely to play well? Well, watch out for this player, watch out for that player. But all of a sudden there's 50, 60 players, and a handful of them, they're really elite players that no longer have world rankings comparable to their elite skill. And that's a wayward place for a ranking system to be.
I think there's no argument who number one is, whatever the system was going to be. So let's pivot to Scheffler, because I'm just curious, because I love when you start having people say, is he in the top 10? No, and you'll say, well, I don't know, he's 12, he's 14, whoever it might be. Phil that was after he won the PGA in 21. I loved it. I loved every time it came up. So I ask you this, is it possible that Scheffler could be a historical, at the end of this year, in your ranking, higher than Rory?
Well, look, I mean, Rory's been playing professional golf for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And you can cherry pick his best year, and he's not been as good as Scheffler's last 2 years. So cherry pick his best year. It could be 2012. It could be 2014. It could be 2019. It could be last year. And from a purely statistical standpoint, he's not been the player that Scottie Scheffler has been the last 2 years. We haven't seen the likes of Scottie Scheffler, not named Tiger Woods. And what Scottie Scheffler has done the last 3 years, we could argue, is that trend going to continue? What he did in 2023 was unbelievable. He became number one in 2022. But at the end of 2024, would you have said, is he likely to have a better year in 2025? Common sense would have said probably not, but he did. He had a better year in 2025 than he had in 2024. Maybe not from a win standpoint all the way around, but from a statistical standpoint. He separated himself to a degree that only Tiger Woods has been able to match. And Tiger Woods only exceeded the degree to which Scottie Scheffler separated himself last year. Tiger only did it 3 times in his career, only 3 times. Scottie Scheffler was about a shot last year better than Rory. He was about a half a shot the year before better than Xander Schauffele. I say Rory because Rory was number 2 in scoring average. And the year before it was Xander Schauffele, but he was a half a shot better than Xander Schauffele. The year before that, he was about 0.2 of a shot better than Rory McIlroy. So he's continuing to distance himself from his competition as time's gone on, and he gets into his physiological prime the same way Tiger Woods did.
Brandel, I had a thing that we put together, and it's just to try to contextualize all of it. The years 26 to 29, of which he still has, until the middle of June, which will be U.S. Open week. And he actually has more wins. Now, Tiger had 29 before he turned 26, and Scottie had 0. But he's now got 20 to Tiger's 17, and everything else, top 3s, top 5s, top 10s. It's basically a push, one direction or the other. The reason why I think it's reasonable for guys like you and me and everybody else, because I always hesitate to go, well, 7, 8, 9. And I'm like, do you realize the last guy to get to 7 where the odometer stopped? Okay, that was 1964, excluding Tiger and Jack. And 8 was Watson in 83, and Player at 9 in 78. But are we going there? Are we going there?
I think so. Yeah, I do. His consistency level is incredible. Going back to what we were talking about earlier in the official World Golf Rankings and the difference between them and Data Golf. I mean, Data Golf accurately measures the fact that the stickiest part of someone's game is their ball striking skill. And even when Scottie Scheffler was struggling with his putting, he was still the number one player in the world.
Right.
He was, as his putting's gotten better, he's become demonstrably better than everybody else. So yeah, I mean, when you talk about Scottie, how could this year be better than last year? Well, again, he's not going to change his golf swing. I think the whole golf world is far more intelligent now about the way they train. So he's unlikely to get hurt in that capacity. He reminds me a lot of Jack Nicklaus, the way he handles his business off of the golf course.
Yep.
And a lot of Jack Nicklaus, the way he plays golf. And Jack's career from 62 to 86. I mean, and he didn't play a lot of golf in there. From 62 to 86, Jack Nicklaus averaged just over 16 golf tournaments a year. Jack didn't play a lot. We talk a lot now about these players playing 20 to 25 weeks and how we need them to play all that. Meanwhile, Jack averaged 16 tournaments in his career, 16 tournaments a year. And he managed to win, 18 major championships doing that. So I look at Scottie very much the same way I look at Jack Nicklaus.
Well, we're going to let you go on that. If people are wondering what's dinner like, this is like dinner before bread even arrives with Brandel Chamblee. You will be on the air later today. The podcast,
I will.
The favorite Chamblee, it's the one who's still sleeping. He's a part of that as well. Thank you, my friend, as always.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, buddy.
Always a pleasure. Love your show. Thank you,
All
Gary.
right, that is Brandel Chamblee. We take a break. Those are winning words. I'm telling you, that is dinner. And bread hadn't even arrived with Chamblee. All right, we continue here on this Wednesday right after this. Welcome back into Five Clubs on this Wednesday. This segment is brought to you by Peter Millar. Yeah, this might be my favorite piece. This is a cashmere zip-up blazer, and it's cold here. But you can add the old elm tie, this striped shirt. It's all Millar, everything. You won't find anything else in a closet that needs purging. It is Peter Millar and petermillar.com. All right, join me now in studio. He is a contributor to this program, but his outfit is the best when it comes to understanding the information you need to actually if you want to just enjoy the events more when it comes to these fields. He is, of course, Keith Stewart from Read the Line. My friend, good to see you. Good morning.
Gary, good morning. Yeah, it is a little chilly down here in Charlotte. I brought out the cashmere myself.
Yeah, the Jersey boy has come south, and you found snow in these parts.
I don't know if I can compete with the zip-up blazer, but touche. But
all right, we got a lot to get to.
Yes.
Because not only are you now part of our picks, you are the bona fide expert because nobody not only contributes to more outfits than you do, the ones that everybody reads and listens to, but you also study this stuff day in and day out, the density of it. And Scheffler is interesting at every level. Oh, yeah. And he's interesting when it comes to people evaluating picking players. How much has changed when it comes to Scheffler and Fields and the information and the data when you go, I like him this week? Well, of course you do. How much has changed?
I mean, a lot of things have changed, but this is the perfect week to ask that question because 4 years ago when it was his first win, and we actually predicted this one at Read the Line in a playoff of all things, playoffs, right? On Super Bowl Sunday, Rams, Bengals, that was a little while ago, but he was plus 2,800 to win that day. And it was a come from behind victory. And now he's 10x less. He's plus 225 on the DraftKings board this morning.
Before a ball is struck.
Before a ball is struck. And I'm sure we'll get into this, but that's the last bet that you want to be making on a Thursday is taking Scottie at plus 225. No matter how much you think he's going to win, there's just better ways to do it. And that's what's been so unique. You talk about changing the landscape of betting. Well, just the odds changing is one thing, but 6 out of the last 10 Waste Management Phoenix Open, right? They've ended in a playoff. 6 out of the last 10 annually, that number, if you wanted to bet it starting the week, that prop is like right around plus 300. Well, this week it's jumped up to plus 400. Why did the odds go up? Because everyone thinks Scheffler is going to win by 4 like he did at the Amex, or by 8 at the CJ Cup, because he's won here twice before. You know, he's proven that he can play very well here. I don't think we're going to get the back 941 that we got last year because he was dealing with, you know, the injury or maybe some self-doubt, inner demons still trying to figure things out. So, like, those are just little examples. Just the fact that he's changing the playoff number and the odds board and all of the, they're all trying to adjust to this, which is very interesting. You would think if he's in the field that the other guys would get a little bump, but they're not being that generous to us as wagerers, right? So they're trying to figure out where everyone else sits. And it's a really unique atmosphere, and it's a lot of fun.
When you were in here for the first time last year and we were asking you, how do you pick Scheffler, has that adjusted at all in what has now been about 9 months? Have you made an alteration to the way that you approach him in any way?
Well, again, the first thing, I'll go back to what I said at the risk of being redundant, is that you got to bet him live. We're not going to take him at 2-1.
Live and mostly late? Or live?
If you get too late, then the number is gone. I think that, you know, probably the best bet on Scottie is to take him as a top 5. If you go back to that, you know, WM Phoenix Open, the first one he won in 2022, there's, you know, famously 86 events since. He's had 54 top 5s. The top 5 number is minus 150. Now, I know you're laying a little bit, but that's pretty good. If you want to go a little bit more risky, like there's nobody that's been better on a Thursday. I mean, even better than Tiger on Thursdays.
He doesn't everybody on every day. He led
every day, but Thursday's his day.
Okay.
He gains more on the field on average. He almost gains 4 strokes on the field on average on Thursdays.
Wow.
Which is very unlike the guys like Jack and Tiger who kind of like built momentum in a golf tournament. He just goes right after you. 63 at the Amex just like, 3 weeks ago? So, like, you're going to get 10-1, 11-1 on the boards on a Thursday, one day. You take a shot at it. That's, 4 times his odds in order to win the tournament after 4 rounds? I mean, that's an opportunity. If you're worried about, you know, a bunch of guys are going to tie him, I don't want to go for the 10-1. For just him to, you know, a top 5 on a Thursday right now in DraftKings is plus 285. So think about that. You're going to get almost 3-1 or more than he's going to get after 4 rounds, and all he needs is a top 5 tomorrow. Okay,
we're going to get to all of our picks and ask you specifically about yours, but Koepka, he's had success here. He's got a start. He got 4 rounds. How do you evaluate him this week?
You know, a lot of people are going to look at the 56th place last week there at the Farmers, and they're going to say, oh, you know, Brooks isn't quite ready yet. You know, he doesn't like regular PGA Tour events, but I kind of look at it a different way. He was 11th in strokes gained tee to green last week. He hit it really, really good. A lot of people just don't putt that Pacific Poa Annua grass very well. Mm-hmm. They just don't. And if you go to LIV Golf, they don't play on that surface at all. So for a couple of years now, he hasn't had any experience there. He lost 5 strokes putting on Saturday, and yet he still made the cut, and he finished 56th in the field. The ball striking was really good. Now he's coming to a place, he's played 5 times, he's won twice. The last time he played here was 3rd, and Brooks is, in all 5 starts, he's always gained with the putter. I mean, I think Brooks is a real threat this week, and there's no man, albeit maybe a comparison to Russell Crowe, who loves the arena and the bro culture more than Brooks. He'll be fired up.
Yeah, that is true. All right, we're going to put our picks for the whole staff. And again, let's remember something. There's one expert that makes picks, and it's the guy sitting to my left. But as we look at the standings, stop patronizing me. I'm coming off a missed cut. Thanks, Xander, for missing your first cut in forever. You're inching up. Again, I think you're patronizing all of us. Brendan, not. Brendan is who he is. He's perfectly branded as the guy who loves the position he's in. At the bottom. All right, so with that being said, here are the picks from everybody. First of all, before we get to yours and Maverick McNealy, any thought on any pick that jumps out from anybody else?
Well, it's interesting. I do like a lot of Siwoo Kim this week.
You do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at Gil Hanse.
Yeah, he's got 3 starts this year, and of the guys that have
played very well.
Yeah, he's gaining over 8 strokes, tee to green in every start. Yeah, with Siwoo, it's always been the putter, but he has a very good history coming in here. He's a good putter on Poa Trivialis. When you start to talk about some of the comp courses for TPC Scottsdale, the Players is one of them. Pretty sure Siwoo has one of those.
Yes,
right?
He does.
Same style of grass. same style of demanding, you know, like one big miss, double bogey, you're out of the tournament. You got to get to 20 under par. So Siwoo definitely catches my attention. Hideki, the iron play has been great, but in the last couple of years, we haven't seen Hideki have a top 10 here since he won the last time in 2017. So I do like Hideki because of the iron play, but the driver needs to be better because the driver's a huge key this week.
Okay, so you're going with Maverick McNealy. He didn't play this event early in his career, but since he started going, he's had a very good record.
Last couple of years I've been on property. He had a 9th a couple of years ago, 6th. So for him, I really think he's figuring this place out. You got to drive for show, you got to putt for dough, and you got to pile up the par 4s. I mean, those are my keys for the week.
Okay.
And Maverick can do that. He's had a good start to his season. He's been very solid, and he does all of those 3 things with tremendous aplomb.
Okay, you took Cam Young last week. My researchers, Bucky and Charlie, thought you stepped in a week early. I'm taking him this week. Bucky and Charlie are my dogs. They're the ones who provide me all my information. I actually, Cam Young looked, even at tied for 22nd last week. That was his first start of the year. And he has a pretty good record here as well. He's had a couple of good stretches. 74 to start the tournament last year, and then had 3 great rounds. Thank you for being here. We got a lot of stuff that we're working on. We can't disclose yet, but we're looking forward to you making a big impact on what we're doing here. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Gary. Look forward to it.
Yeah, that of course, Keith Stewart, it's Read the Line. And he just doesn't go away when the tournament starts. He has information every single day to update you to get you ready for the next day of every event. All right, we continue here. Wrap it up. I mentioned my dogs, Bucky and Charlie. Dogs of the week, to put a bow on it on a Wednesday right after this. Back in on 5 Club's Dogs of the Week in just a second. This segment brought to you by, everybody who shops at Peter Millar, I'm guessing 99.79% have a dog because it's the lifestyle. Walking the beach or walking into a boardroom and everything in between that you would ever need to wear in your life is available at petermillar.com. It is the lifestyle brand. All right, the Dogs of the Week. If you've got a dog that you have any relationship with it through the game of golf, watch golf with your dog. Take your dog to the golf course, whatever it is. Send us a photo or a video. It's dogs@5clubsgolf.com. Here we go. Release them on a Wednesday. Our first dog is Ziggy. Now that is Leanne Carpinelli's dog. Leanne lives here in Charlotte. She's a level 3 TPI fitness trainer at Myers Park Country Club. Ziggy was at the PGA Merchandise Show. I saw Ziggy at the mall right before the holidays, I believe. That is Raven. Now, that is Steve Schnellner's dog, who passed away last summer. This German short-haired pointer loved going in the spring and fall to Dub's Dread Golf Club in Kansas City. Raven loved doing that. Appreciate you sending that photo. That is Bo, Blake Ulrich's dog. He's the head golf professional at Kawartha Golf Club in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada, an Australian Shepherd Border Collie mix known as the Director of Treats. And then finally, that's Bjorn and Ingrid. Bjorn is a golden retriever, Ingrid is a Goldador, and they love the snow-capped mountains in the background there at Eagle Springs Golf Club in Walcott, Colorado. The owner is Fraser Horn. Thank you for sending in those photos of those dogs. They'll be featured on all the digital platforms socially with us before the end of the week. Speaking of the end of the week, at the end of the week, you're going to have 5 players. They're going to, based on performance, are going to play their way into the first couple of Signature Series events, which is huge. And if you take a look at the players right now, again, you do the Aon Top 10, that's based on the end of year. Now, as you started the meter to start the year, Pearson Coody, Matt McCarty, Patrick Rogers, Ryo Hisatsune, and then Andrew Putnam. But if you look at the guys just outside, and Sahith Theegala is breathing down the neck of the guy in 5th, Andrew Putnam. Jake Knapp, you see Brooks Koepka, who obviously is way outside looking in, Max Homa as well. But these guys, and you consider the profile of those players, some obviously with more experience than others, Patrick Rogers and Andrew Putnam much more than someone like Pearson Coody. this is a golden opportunity to know that one of those two events is a no-cut event. And the other one with the modest cut at the Genesis. If you have two reasonably good weeks, it's amazing how much it could set up the balance of the year, in addition to Signature Series starts beyond just those first two, because they pile up in the early part of the spring, in obviously the months of March with the API, and then obviously the Players, and then you have likes of the Truist Championship, the new event at Doral. You've got obviously multiple major championships sandwiched around it. One last point with respect to the conversation that I had with Brandel Chamblee. I think that there's no doubt that there are tweaks and changes that can be made to the official World Golf Ranking System. But I think that, again, based on everything that I've read and listened to from people who are experts on the data driving performance in the game of golf, that alone, that it's a reasonably good starting point. Well, again, like I said, it's a big programming day, because coming up next, Smiley, following that, the Vanity Index podcast as well. And then you got Golf Today, and then Golf Central live from the Waste Management Phoenix Open. For all of us here at Signature Sports Group and 5 Clubs, have a great rest of your week. We're looking forward to getting back at it next week. Enjoy the Super Bowl as well on NBC. For all of us at 5 Clubs, have a great Wednesday, folks. We'll see you next Monday.